It's the best of the rest. Time to put them to the test. In case your memory is hazy, it's Blaxploitation, baby. This is Black History Month, a 29-day celebration of Black exploitation films.
Slaughter, the man whose name speaks for itself. For last year's Black History Month, I covered Slaughter number 1, a Jim Brown film about an ex-soldier who goes on a revenge mission to avenge the death of his parents. It was alright. The things I liked most about it was its change of scenery, since it was filmed in Mexico, and its diabolical villain, played by Rip Torn. Almost exactly a year later, American International went back to the well to produce a sequel, Slaughter's Big Ripoff. Ernest Slaughter's Big Revenge sounds like a better name to me than Big Ripoff. I call him Ernest because I felt like he needed a first name in the previous movie. And you probably think they didn't want to call it Revenge because the previous film was a revenge story. But guess what? This one is a revenge story too. You know, I'm beginning to think that old Ernie is pretty chill normally, all things considered, until somebody does something stupid to spring him into action. Look how ideal his life is in the beginning of Big Ripoff. Why would anybody want to mess this up? Why? Because F y'all for not inviting me to the party, that's why. At least I assume that's why this pilot took out 2 people who I'm left to assume Slaughter cared about. These people really didn't have a care in the world because they had a lifetime to run and get to safety. Don't run now. Ooh, look at that tackle. Jim Brown still got it. You already know what comes next. My man Ernest Slaughter goes on a one-man investigation? If you saw the first film, then I'm sorry to tell you that it's more of the same, just with a different location, since this movie takes place in LA, but was filmed in Miami. Don't overthink it. In the original, Slaughter at first got right down to business, but here, it's definitely more about uncovering the plot than seeking immediate revenge. Major props to Slaughter's Big Ripoff for keeping the continuity going though, something that rarely happens in these type of movies. Turns out, the airplane assassin was actually just trying to take out Slaughter, and he was hired by a crime boss named Duncan, played by Ed McMahon of all people. The reasoning for this is because Slaughter is responsible for killing Dominic Hoffo, the big villain from the first Slaughter. I'm guessing Dom was a made man, so Duncan wants revenge for his slaughter. Tell me again why this movie wasn't called Slaughter's Big Revenge? Since the first guy fell so spectacularly, Duncan hires another hitman named Kirk, played by Don Stroud, who's way more ruthless, but not quite as evil as Rip Torn as Dominic in the original. From here, it unfortunately turns into your usual criminal underworld movie, and I feel like they missed an opportunity to do everything bigger than the first film. Jim Brown himself is great as usual, but everybody else is stock blaxploitation characters. There's criminals, crooked cops, bunch of ladies, no reverence this time though, but definitely a pimp. Oh yeah, the pimp. Nah, you're not imagining things. That's Dick Anthony Williams playing what appears to be Pretty Tony in another movie other than The Mac. But in reality, it's definitely the same character, performance-wise anyway. He's only really different in name only. Dick Williams essentially played the same character in back-to-back movies that came out only 3 months apart. Only thing he changed was his credited name. Dick Williams in The Mac and Richard Williams for this. Yeah, you're not slick, brother. He's more than just a pimp in this though. He doubles as a safecracker and goes from not really being trusted by Slaughter to being forced to work with him to break into the bad guy's hideout. He gets a lot more to do in this movie. And that's not the only interesting thing about this film. If you had saw this in the 70s, you would have heard a pretty nice James Brown score and soundtrack. But if you watch it now on DVD or streaming, you get a generic soundtrack that sounds oddly familiar. I've heard this somewhere before. I can't quite put my finger on it. Oh yeah, that's right. The score to Slaughter's Big Ripoff is a complete remixed ripoff of the soundtrack for Coffee, including, awkward enough, Coffee's main theme song. I'm assuming there was some kind of contract dispute, so American International had to pull from their stock music catalog. If you see these two movies in close enough proximity, it might throw you off a little bit. I also can't forget to mention Gloria Hendry being here as Slaughter's girlfriend, only because it's Gloria Hendry, and I love me some Miss Hendry. Sadly, it's another one of those movies where she just plays a damsel in distress the entire time, but she's still a welcome addition. If you take both Slaughter and Slaughter's Big Ripoff as a whole, they're both very good action movies. Even if you don't get a ton of action until the last 15 minutes of both of them. Both movies are far more entertaining than Black Gun though, and they both find ways to keep you invested until the big payoff. Just don't go into either movie expecting something new and unique.